I went with it. I went and had a look at it, and like I say, didn't really do proper research. Didn't really know what I was probably looking at. Sort of took it out, and as soon as I heard the engine, it's like, yeah, that's it. I'm having that. You know, this is the one problem with Porsches is that.
So
Yeah,
here we are again.
we are indeed.
Yeah. Tell us what we sat in front of this time.
Right, yeah, this is my 2006 Porsche Carrera C4S 997.1. I've owned it for about 4.5 years. Yeah, and it was probably not the best financial decision I've ever made, but that said, it's a lovely bit of kit to have and drive, and it's something I always wanted. And despite what we've been through together, I still don't regret it. It's still such a nice car to have, you know.
I think a lot of petrol heads say that about their project car. It's kind of in sickness, health, and anger.
I mean, this was always, it was bought, I always say it was a wheeler dealer type project. So it was, as I thought, it was generally a sort of sound car, but it was, you know, it was kind of like a little bit scruffy. It needed it got a few sort of car park things in it.
Yeah.
The interior was a little bit tired and stuff like that. So it was kind of like all stuff that I could do myself. So I thought, well, you know what, that's perfect for me. Went into it a little bit blind.
Yeah.
I did all my research after I bought it, which is probably not the best thing.
Yeah, because you got kind of you kind of rushed into this, didn't you? You got a tax rebate. And
Yes.
Then things went quite quickly after that, didn't they?
Yeah. So I am a little bit impulsive when it comes to things like that. So yeah, initially I think this was January 2021. I got a tax rebate at work, and it was about £7,000, which I should have been suspicious of at the time, but I wasn't. But I got this rebate, and obviously didn't have to pay any tax either because I'd got a rebate. So I thought, you know what, I really fancy a 944. So I started looking at 944s, and it was just a case of everything I looked at was a little bit ropey. There's no modern comforts like aircon or anything like that, and because like it's something that I wanted to go out with Nicola. Yeah, we wanted something where we were going to be comfortable. She was going to be comfortable in it and all that. So I thought, well, you know what, let me have a look at some like S2 ones. So I basically thought, well, I'll use the money that I would have paid the tax with, and I'll add that to the money that I got in the rebate, and then I'll look for something, you know, kind of like sort of twice the money. And when I started looking then, which was sort of the £10,000 to £12,000 mark, yes, there were some nice 944s, but then it started to sneak into like 911s. And of course, like a lot of petrol heads, it's like the kind of the one car that I had right from when I started driving was one day I want a 911. So I thought, you know what, actually I could get a 996 here. So why don't I buy what I would term as a proper Porsche, even though, no disrespect, because obviously, as you know, I've already got a 944 as well now. But why, you know, why don't I get like the sort of iconic Porsche, probably rather than proper. So yeah, the iconic Porsche, you know, and do that. And so I started to look at a few, and there's a few nice ones for around about 12, 13 grand. And I rang up one of my customers, which is Stuart Parker, who runs a company called Team Parker Racing. They do a lot of Carrera Cup cars. We wrap a lot of cars for them in the Carrera Cup, and they're in it this year again. I think they've got about 8 cars in it or something like that. So I rang up Stuart and I just said, look, what's your opinion of 996s? And he says, they're all right. He says, but you'd be better off with a 997. So I'm like, all right, okay, well, how much is one of those going to cost? He was well, I just bought one and it was only about 15, but the engine was gone on it and I rebuilt it and blah, blah, blah and all that. So I started initially looking for, you know, one that needed like engine work or whatever, but there was nothing really that was around. And this was right in the middle of the 2021 lockdown period as well. And looking around, and I found down in, now where was it? It was somewhere down in Essex, a Carrera 2, and it was sort of within budget and it looked really nice. And I was like, I had a couple of sleepless nights deciding whether to buy it or not. And I kind of decided that, yeah, I was going to go and get it. So I spoke to my friend Paul Dunkley, who runs Epic Accessories, and said to him, "Do you fancy coming with me and we'll come and have a look at this car?" And I said, because like, to be honest, because it's lockdown and we shouldn't really be out, I said, if I buy it, I want to just bring it back. So I want to go down there with you, and then you follow me back. And then literally that afternoon, I'm flicking through Auto Trader on the internet to show a friend what I'd bought or was going to buy, and this came up, and it was in Leicester, and it was a C4S rather than just a Carrera. So it was a 3.8 rather than the 3.6, four-wheel drive, wide body, and all that. And it was like, I think it worked out it was going to be about 600 quid more, and it was in Leicester as well. So I was like, you know what, this is the one sort of thing. So I went with it. I went and had a look at it, and like I say, didn't really do proper research, didn't really know what I was probably looking at. Sort of took it out, and as soon as I heard the engine, it's like, yeah, that's it, I'm having that, you know. So I bought it and then took it home, started to watch all the YouTube videos of things that I should have looked at, and it was like, oh, here we go. And to be fair, it seemed pretty good. Like all of the things, like the common things, like the crossover pipes had been done, all the sort of aircon rads have been replaced, and all that. And it had all been done relatively recently. So I thought, I've done well here. This is all right, you know. And I should have been a little bit suspicious at the price of it at the time, but I just kind of thought, yeah, it's bargain. You know, it's lockdown. People want to get rid of stuff and all that. So probably in 2-3 months into owning it, I decided to get it lowered, because that's just me, and I'm an idiot. So I had it lowered, and in the process of having it lowered, the steering rack failed. So yeah, $3,000 later, we've got the new steering rack in it, and this is the one problem with Porsches, is that you can get some scary bills quite quickly. And then I drove it then for probably another year. I had the wheels made at Image Wheels in Birmingham, so I put the split rims on it, got it how I sort of wanted it looking. And then I changed the front bumper, put this aero bumper on it instead, just to make it look a little bit more aggressive. And then I noticed it was starting to use a bit of oil, and you see all these stories about 997.1s, about bore score, and you get two camps. You get the camp that say, oh, it's terrible, the world's going to end and all that, don't touch them. And you get the other camp that are in denial, and it's like, it's not a problem, it's only a really small percentage of cars. It's never going to happen and all that. So I was kind of like, yeah, it's probably all right, it'll be the air oil separator or something like that. So I kind of kept on driving it, and there was no noises, no clicking, no loss of performance, but it was just using quite a bit of oil. And I took it to back to Team Parker to go and get a service done, and I just said, look, it's using a bit of oil, you know, and it smokes quite a bit when I start it. And he's like, yeah, it's probably just the air oil separator or whatever. He said, but yeah, we need to investigate. And at the time, they have a common problem where the starter cable, there's too much resistance in it, and it basically so if you stall it when it's hot, it sounds like the battery's flat,
right?
And then it's quite intimidating, because if you stall it while in traffic, and it really doesn't want to start for a few seconds, and it's quite, you know, you're like, and of course everyone's looking at you because you're the idiot in the Porsche who's just stalled it. So you're sort of doing that, and so it was a lot easier to replace all that with the engine out than it was to do it with it in. And believe it or not, on these, it's not actually a big job. It's kind of everything drops out the bottom and does all that. So they dropped the engine out, and then, like, obviously I'm quite friendly with them all. I know them all over there, and he sort of said, well, do you want me to bore scope it while it's out? And I'm like, well, not really, but you suppose you ought to.
Yeah.
And of course, obviously, a few hours later, he rings me. Oh, your cylinder 6 is really, really scored, which is the main one that goes first, because I think it's furthest away from the cooling jacket or something like that, or it's the one that gets the least cool air and does that. So all the other 5 are fine, but that one had it. Now, some people will do a sort of just a partial rebuild, and they'll sort of just replace that one cylinder. But the problem with that is that you're doing 99% of the work, and so kind of while you're in there, you might as well just do the whole lot. And they're sort of like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to put the engine back in, just run it through the summer? Do you want to just put the engine back in and sell it? And I said, well, the trouble is, I said, if I put the engine back in, if I sell it, I'm not the sort of person that's going to like just palm it off on somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say there is a problem, and then the car's probably worth 10 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, actually, I'm better off to, you know, just bite the bullet and get it done. So, yeah, sure enough, the engine came out. Quite a bit of money later, it all went back in again. We had it sort of, it's built more or less standard with sort of genuine Porsche parts. It's not a Hartech rebuild, which obviously they're the sort of go-to for that, but I had it done at the Team Parker Racing, so I went down the people that they use. So they put in Westwood spun liners and lightweight mile pistons and stuff like that, and rebuilt it all. And then I think it was about 2 months later, I got the car back and engine back in. And yeah, since then, other than I had an engine mount go on it a few weeks ago that I had to replace, but that's a job that I can just do myself. It's been faultless, and it's strong. It sounds nice. It's sort of, it doesn't use any oil, and it's done about 6,000-7,000 miles since the engine's been rebuilt, and it's, you know, it's faultless. I don't use it as much as I used to because I've used the 944 more, but yeah, it's still a sort of it's a nice thing to have, and it's something that I thought when I bought it, how am I going to you know, sort of regret buying an older one? And is it like kind of a, you know, don't meet your heroes? You know, is it because it's like, I mean, it's 20 years old, you know, so is it kind of like, you know, it would have been nice back in the day, but now it's just an old nail. But actually, when you go in it, it's still like a modern car. It drives nice, but it was like, you've got to think 20 years ago, it was the best part of 90 grand.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why it's nice, you know, things. So.
Yeah, and you got it for a fraction of its original price, really.
Yes, yeah, not quite as little as I would have done had I not had to rebuild the engine. But yeah, so that was all that. And then the other side note to the whole financial mistake with it all is the fact that it turned out that my rebate was actually a mistake, and it was an accounting error, not by the accountants but by the HMRC. So the following year I got stung with a massive bill, so I then had to, like, you know, pay a massive tax bill, and it was touch and go at the time whether do I sell the car and pay the tax bill. But I just thought, you know what, no, I'm going to regret that. It's going to be, you know, I'll keep hold of it and stuff, you know. So
yeah, that was the irony in the whole thing, is you didn't have that money to start with. It wasn't yours. Yeah. And you bought a car and you had to spend quite a bit of money on it.
But then I suppose it just sort of, in one way, it's kind of like, had I not had that, I'd have probably still been sat here now thinking, oh, I really wish I'd bought a 911 one day. Whereas, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's been a bit turbulent over the time, but it's here, I've got it, I've had it. And even if I have to sell it tomorrow, at least I can say for 4 or 5 years I've owned one and I've enjoyed it and stuff like that. So I think sometimes it's like, yeah, maybe we overthink things, and perhaps sometimes it's just a case of, you know, just go out and do it if you can. You know?
Yeah, that's always a common theme with so many people I've spoken to, is that whether it's life changes, financial changes, or just get to an age where life is too short. You just, you know, if you've got them, if you can afford it, and, you know, you've got the sort of essentials covered, why not?
Definitely. I think, you know, if you're in a position where, I don't know, I mean, obviously my kids are grown up and stuff like that, but if you're in a position where you're at home and you've got a nice car, but you're having to say to them, look, no, sorry, we can't go out. We can't, you know, we can't go to, you know, then you probably shouldn't have that car. You probably should do something less. But, you know, if you can, like you say, if you can still maintain all the things in life that you need to and have it, then why not? Like, you know, no, there's no prizes for dying with a big bank account. You know, at the end of the day, and let's face it, you know, the money that I've got in this, I enjoy it far more when I take it out than if I was looking at a screen with some numbers on it, you know, and that's what it boils down to. And I suppose not everybody's into cars, you know, that's my thing.
Great stuff. Well, we'll have a quick look at the engine.
Yep.
And then we'll take it out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to go down the other end for that.
Sounds good.
Get ready to be overwhelmed by the amount that you can see.
I was going to say. Yeah, it always does amaze me how, you know, some people can work on their own Porsche, because
Yeah,
In terms of space, there just isn't any.
I mean, to be fair, once you take the airbox out, you have got a bit more access, so you can get to all the auxiliary belts and stuff like that. But yeah, there's not a lot of access and not a lot to see really. Most of the work on them gets done from underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when the engine was out and on the gearbox, it's such a massive lump as well. It's like you
I
really,
think it's kind of deceptive.
yeah,
isn't it?
you really don't
much.
sort of think. I think somewhere on my Facebook photos, there's some pictures of the engine out when it was sort of just before it went back in, and it's a real impressive sort of big lump, really. I think my only regret when I had it rebuilt is that I didn't have it like soda blasted or anything on the case, so although it's kind of all nice and clean and dry, it still looks a little bit aged. But then realistically, what can you see? You know, it's kind of, it's just sort of and to be honest with you, you don't want to spend much time looking at the engine. It's just, it hasn't even got a dipstick, so it's a case of like, you spend more time driving it than looking at it, really.
Perfect. Well, speaking of, I think we should do exactly that.
Absolutely, yeah. See if we can miss the traffic. Well, I'm sure we'll find a quiet bit. I say where that's come from. It's
Yeah, I think this has confirmed my my thoughts that I've just got to have a 911 at some point in my life.
Yeah, they don't disappoint for sure.
There's just such a feeling around them. Some of it you can explain, and some of it which you just can't.
I mean, they just feel so solid. I mean, you wouldn't really know that you were sat in a 19-year-old car.
No.
You know, it's kind of like, it still feels tight and fresh. It's not rattly. It's comfort. You've got your heated seats. You've got your sort of your climate control and all that sort of thing. So you've got all those modern sort of things, but and with it being a naturally aspirated engine as well, you've just got that bark. And it's kind of
Plus, there's less to go wrong.
Well, that's debatable. But you sort of, that is the one bad thing with them, is that, if stuff does go wrong, it kind of gets quite expensive quite quickly.
Yeah.
I could show you these sort of invoices from when I had the engine rebuilt, and some of the stuff makes you cry. It's sort of, I think the head bolts were something like 700 quid. And it was like, but that was 2 years ago now, and it's in the past, and I'm never going to regain all that money back from it. I'm just going to get it out of it in fun,
I suppose that's a trap that people could very easily fall into in buying a cheap Porsche.
Yeah,
just the money that you think you'd save will almost always be eaten up by work that needs doing.
Definitely. You're always much better off, as long as you know that the work has been done, you're always much better off to buy one that somebody else has done the work on it.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to get that. I mean, I'm never, well, unless these go the way of like the 964s and the 993s and stuff like that, certainly in the near future, I'm never going to see my investment of what I put into the engine back. I might see some of it, and it will certainly make it a lot easier to sell when I come to sell it. But I mean, at the moment, I'm not got any plans to get rid of it. It's kind of it's what would I replace? Yeah, so this has got like the sports exhaust on it as well, so you can. I must admit, I never turn it off. It's literally. First thing I do is hit the button to turn it on when I get in the car. But like I say, I used to think it was quite noisy, and then since driving the red one around, it's kind of. But this is just a lot more refined, it's sort of.
Yeah, I never thought I'd say the word sensible, but when
Yeah.
when you compare it to your 944, it does feel somewhat sensible, doesn't it?
Yeah, they are. They're a very practical car, really. I mean, yeah, sure, there's not a massive amount of storage, but
No.
but actually, it is a car that you could drive every day. I wouldn't want to put the fuel in it every day, but it's as far as actually, if you wanted to, you could. I mean, the sort of fuel economy on it's pretty abysmal, but it's kind of like you don't buy it for that.
No, I was
really.
going to say you don't buy a 911 to then worry about the fuel, do you?
No,
Did it tell you?
it used to, because it used to have the factory PCM thing in it, and it used to be honest with you, the best thing I ever did was take it out and replace it with that, because I used to be constantly looking at it thinking, oh, because like you drive it like this to go into town or whatever, and it's doing like 14 to the gallon, and you're like, that's not very good. And then on a run, you're probably 25.
Yeah.
But like I say, to be honest with you, I've took it on a few long trips places, and you don't notice it too bad. It's
It's a great note, isn't it? Especially with these sports exhausts, and it's raspy, isn't it?
When I first got in it and I took it on the thing that sold me it, I thought it was almost like listening to something on the TV, when you've got like a movie, almost like the start of The Italian Job or whatever, when he's going through the sort of mountains and stuff like that. You got this engine that was like really singing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with these Dot 1s, although the engines are a bit more fragile, like when they are sorted, I just think they sound so much nicer.
Yeah.
They're a bit more raw than the Dot 2.
Yeah.
It's like...
And that's why you don't worry about fuel economy.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a well sorted Golf R will probably eat it alive.
Yeah.
But it's like
It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's the whole kind of experience and that. And it's like there's a lot of faster cars out there, but it's respectable. And it's it's about 4.5 seconds to 60, so it's kind of up there.
It's no slouch.
Yeah, I mean, and again, on the public roads, you're really not going to use it all.
Such a good noise.
Yeah, I mean, when it sits sometimes, I think, I ought to sell it, and then I take it out again, and it's like, no, I think I can keep it.
Yeah. It's almost like the car knows it. It's kind of smug about it. It's
yeah, they're very...
Take me out for a drive and then you'll change your mind.
Yeah, and that's the thing with it. It's not massively flash. It's kind of like you can take it out and it'll just blend into things, but it's just that when you're in it, you've just got that real nice sort of comfort and performance.
Yeah.
And
I too have always pondered about 911, 996, 997, and the argument seems to be that this is just a little bit more modern and therefore a bit more easy to live with. Like you say, aircon, safety features. It just makes it more road trippy, a bit more usable, doesn't it?
I think for me, I'm not overly keen on the 996 dashboard.
Yeah.
I think the dash, don't get me wrong, this is not ultra modern anymore, but I just think this looks more like a sports car interior, whereas the 996 is a little bit more like a German road car of the period.
Yeah.
And it just, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I just think this feels a little bit more, I suppose, upmarket, for want of a better word. But
well, thanks for today.
No problem at all.
Really great seeing the Porsche, and if you've enjoyed today's video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more videos like it, subscribe, and see you next time.